At this point, I would like to throw the camera over to my colleague Barb Fote, who will take some questions from the panel.
Thank you. We
Excuse me, from the audience.
Well, we're going to ask questions to the panel, but we have several students here and some community members, and I know some people have questions. So stand up, if you will. You have a question for the panel.
Do you think that Gen Z having lost faith in institutions is localized to certain sides of the spectrum, the political spectrum?
Sides of the political spectrum. Sarah, you were talking about Gen Z.
I didn't hear the entire.
Are there certain political spectrums that have lost faith more than others? Republicans, Democrats?
Oh, that's a good question. The only data I saw was looking at kind of splits between younger Gen Z and older Gen Zs, and there's definitely an ideological split between those. So younger Gen Zs are actually more Republican, lean more Republican, and the older Gen Zs are a little bit more towards Democrats. Now, I don't know how that translates into, how you feel, your trust in government, but generally Democrats trust government institutions much more. So if you look at polling data, Democrats have higher levels of trust for almost every institution. It's still not high, but it's definitely higher than Republicans. So I would say, yeah, there's a split in your generation around that.
Do you have a sense of that yourself from being in that generation?
A little bit, yeah.
What would you say, how does it split for you?
Well,
not sure? Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I would just add, it makes sense kind of that people that lean Democrats have more trust in government because they believe more that government can do good things typically, whereas Republicans, these are all very general statements, tend to have a lot more skepticism, right? So it sort of makes sense.
Okay, let's do another question. Go ahead.
Hi, so the Trump administration has taken various hits at public broadcasting stations and news outlets and even at student journalists. So my question is, do you think that the First Amendment is under attack?
Bob Spitzer.
The journalism profession is underappreciated. It is a profession, and there's so much talk about liberal journalists or their ideological points of view. But the most important thing is look at the news content of what journalists report. And there is a crisis of confidence in journalists. Newspapers have been closing down at an alarming rate. Other traditional media outlets have a smaller viewership, partly to a great degree because of the internet. There's been kind of an inversion of where people get their news. Social media is all about that. So given the critical, the one profession that is mentioned in the Bill of Rights is press. The press, it's mentioned in the first freedom of the press. And Thomas Jefferson famously said that given a choice between government without press or press without government, he would choose press without government. The press is essential. It is under attack. And the institutions themselves are being challenged in court, in part by the current administration. And it's a great concern.
Michael, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Well, I think that, left-wing media is under attack. I don't know if right-wing media is under attack. I think it's growing at a colossal pace. And I would like to speak to that earlier question. When we control for race, and we think about Gen Z, when you read some of the data coming out of the Urban League and the National Action Network and coming out of the NAACP, you see that there's a resurgence of interest among young black people. I think it's particularly related to President Trump. But I think that they are completely re-energized because even the young black kid who likes to play basketball all day and doesn't really pay attention, or the young that wants to play video games, even they can't avoid this reality anymore. And I think that they're tired of the way that he's governing. They're tired of emotion, feeling, opinion, hypothetical, anecdotal, speculative conjecture masquerading as government. They want to see some real changes, and they want to see it now.
Okay, let's take another question.
This one might be a little long, but do you think that Democrats, particularly moderate ones, have played it a little bit too safe? I mean, we've seen some of them completely denounce like protecting trans people. In particular, Tom Suozzi, representative of a Long Island district. Do you think that maybe the Gen Z distrust in politics is partly like because of Democrats playing it a little bit too safe?
Tara, what do you think about that? Democrats playing it a little too safe?
I would agree with that to a certain extent because, I often teach about politicians being pragmatic, okay? And sometimes I think I'll say I was like this. You tend to forget, you're like, well, why don't they say something about this? Why don't they say something about that? Meaning politicians. But the problem is that if you want to remain a politician and achieve success or certainly achieve good for your constituency, you have to remain a politician. And in order to remain a politician, you have to think about, okay, what is going to keep me in my position and what will get me taken out of my position? Who are the demographics of your community that you represent? And I do think that sometimes makes politicians especially much more careful about what they say than perhaps they might be. For example, and we've seen this over the last 4 or 5 years, the number of politicians who start really criticizing Trump after they've announced they're retired. So, and I think that's true for Democrats and Republicans.
I don't think they're playing it too safe. I think they're playing it too lazy, is what I think they're doing, right? Democrats got to come off of podcasts and YouTube and come out of the studios, and they got to go talk to the people. Go to the gymnasiums. Go to the Rotary clubs. Get your nose bloodied on Fox News. Bring the information to the people. The other day, we're celebrating Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker sitting on the steps talking to people like that was a big deal, but their behinds are still sitting there watching D.C. Go to places that may not even be welcome. It's time for them to stop being so lazy.
I recommend watching J.B. Pritzer's talk last night in New Hampshire in front of an audience. You will be impressed because he has that criticism of the Democrats too.
He's the governor of
back.
Illinois.
He's the governor of Illinois, and he's not holding back.
Yeah.
Okay, another question here.
So within Trump's 100 days, how you feel like he's changed disability policy, and how would that change throughout the next few years? As someone on the autism spectrum, I am afraid that of his comments of people with disabilities, as well as RFK Jr.'s comments on the autistic community. So I was wondering, because I'll be graduating next year, I need to find a job. Would some of the stuff that helped to protect me will go away due to the Trump administration?
Yeah. Here's the operative fact about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's a blithering idiot, okay? And not to put too fine a point on it, he says all sorts of things that sound very precise. He said that, what was the number of, that half of the Chinese population is diabetic. I mean, it's like 3% or something. I mean, he says stuff like this all the time, and he speaks with authority, and his name is Kennedy. I mean, the notion that he's heading an important agency in the government is not only bad for policy, it's bad for the optics of people who actually do have medical circumstances that affect their lives.
I think that one other thing is that government is serious business for serious people. And we have some really incompetent people. Pete Hegseth, Kennedy, Kash Patel, there is Tulsi Gabbard. There are a couple of those that are just unbelievably incompetent and have no right to be there. And I think RFK is leading the league right now.
Oh, phew.